Yeah, let's talk about the story of Heru and Set and how it relates to your relationship between your higher self and your ego. See, in the story between Heru and Set, it was a consistent war, a consistent battle, one fighting for edge over the other, and consistently while this battle was taking place. Ironically, the ego was taking over and had control of the kingdom. So the higher self, which is Heru, was consistently battling his uncle, which was ego, and Set to restore his father's righteous way of thinking. So the story goes is that Heru and Set had a long-standing battle, war if you will, and it consistently went in the favor of Set, which is his uncle, which represents the ego. And Heru, which represents the higher self, was constantly trying to restore his father's righteous kingdom. But Set usurped the throne. So in usurping the throne, he had reign and rule, which is ego, which happens automatically. You're born into ego. You're given ego. Ego has rulership over the land. So for Heru to finally overthrow his uncle, which is ego, Heru being higher self, he had to succumb his uncle Set to the rules of his own kingdom, to bind him to himself, because he was at fault, which ego can be at fault based on its own measures. That's why folks are depressed and sad, because the measures that's placed on by the ego that surrounded the kingdom. So, as we go on with the story, Heru overthrows Set, which represents the ego, but he doesn't kill Set. Get this, he makes Set work at the front of the ship. And the front of the ship can be the vessel as you navigate the waters of life, right? So he put him at the front to protect the ship. And he would take that position, Set, which is ego, which is Heru's uncle, would take that position when Heru sailed the boat over into the abyss, into the darkness, into the Dua. Right? So during this time in darkness, it was Set who was fighting and defending righteousness through the darkness, which symbolizes at times the darkness is necessary. At times the ego is necessary, but there must be rules placed, binded by its own rules. So there's no fault or no harm that can come back to the ego or its person, because by its own rules it's valuable. It cherishes itself. So it shouldn't do things to destroy itself or bring harm to itself, right? Another place. So that's the same thing that Heru and Set taught us so long ago, and we see this symbology in the yin and yang, the fire and ice. When you look at the Baphomet, it's the balancing of these polar opposites, right? These energies, which are extremely necessary for our survival and thrival. So I hope you found what you were looking for. I'm still searching.